Have you ever wanted to change the world? Have you ever seen an injustice and wanted to do something about it? Or felt that you could do a far better job combating climate change than the governments have? There was once a baby eagle. It grew up amongst a family of chickens, spent its day, stretching around, chasing chicks, a fairly blissful childhood and teenagehood, as you can imagine. And then one day, it looked up and saw this eagle soaring majestically in the sky. And it wished with all its heart that it were an eagle too, so that it could fly and rule the sky. Now you know that it is actually an eagle. And we learned earlier that motivation and ability is insufficient. You still need a trigger. You need an environment. But many of us, or how many of you, can claim to already be that full-fledged eagle? How many of you have the courage, and when will you have the courage to realize your full potential, your dreams, to maximize your chances of being happy, not just for your own sake, for society's sake as well? Because when each of us is fully alive, that's really when society itself is truly vibrant. And that's when the world becomes a better place. It's not a myth, it's not a dream, but each of us needs to start embarking on that journey. What I wanted to share today is, really a simple way of allowing each of us to fulfill our dreams. When you encounter a situation that you feel is unjust and which you care deeply about. This happened 1.5 years ago. Basically, there was an article on a certain news network about 2,000 Pakistani minorities who were evicted from their homes by the government. There were some inaccuracies in the report, but essentially, you have a group of people who were starving and homeless for half a year in the capital, so access was not an issue actually. But they had fallen through the cracks. Somehow, the major NGOs, the major international and local NGOs, did not seem to be acting. And there are various reasons for that, the size and all that. But let's get to the fundamentals, and we'll just, take a walk through this project, and you'll see how you could apply it to whatever situation you care to address in future. So what was the problem? There was this newspaper report, obviously they've been there for a while. The knee-jerk reaction is to send food. And obviously that is necessary. You have to keep them alive. But, it's not that hard to figure out what's really needed. If you were them, what would you want? If you were one of these, anxious parents wondering if their kids were going to fall into this killer drain, wondering if they would live to the next week, wondering whether they had a future. It goes back to the basic needs, right? Housing, education, and all that. And job training so that they can sustain themselves going forward. Sustainability is important because we don't plan to be there forever. There are many people that we can and should help. And we have limited resources. So you have to be intelligent in how you apply it. So figuring out what's needed, and then what's the next step? Just to gather resources, gather information first as to, how they came to be there, why things are the way they are, and who might have interest or not to help. And after that, it's, after you've done all the work that is possible outside the country, it's time to go to Pakistan and meet with the key authorities. And again, it goes back to, figuring out what's needed and then going to the people who could offer help. In this case, it's the contacts who can, basically grant access to the chairman of the Capital Development Authority, even the cabinet. And step by step, you establish your credibility. You demonstrate that you do care about a win-win situation. You care for the greater good, and that allows you to progress and to gain alliances, even when you have essentially not very much or nothing to offer, to cut to the gist of it. So it's been 1.5 years of structuring a game plan whereby on one hand we keep them alive with food aid and so on that very kind donors have banded together to provide, and on the other hand really coming up with a plan to help them learn to fish, and in a way fish in with better technologies or in better waters. So we had a partnership with Mensa Pakistan to administer IQ tests to them, and that allows us to segment them for various streams of job training. Because if you think about it, English and computer skills will help open the world of the MNCs and the international embassies and NGOs to them. But learning English or learning computer skills is not easy for people who have been, largely illiterate. It calls for a lot. And we don't want, we want to ensure that resources are well spent, and we want to ensure that we don't unduly tax them, right? With, learning that is not fair to ask of them. So the streaming helps us to put them into the appropriate streams. And so basically by being very methodical and just being very pragmatic in what the problem is and what the ultimate solution is, you can work out what the various solutions might be and break through the bottlenecks. So we can take a quick look at the camp. If we can just skip to the first picture. Yeah, I don't have the clicker actually. It's okay, we'll just go to the first one. So this is a camp, when we read the papers, millions are affected in the floods, it sounds like another disaster, doesn't it? Because we are seeing an increasing frequency of disasters, and we will see that worsen in intensity and frequency going forward because of climate change, including droughts and all that. So you have lots of innocent lives that are being lost and will be lost. And the world is not going to become a better place if we just sit back and, continue being chickens. So the change that you want to have in the world, the change that Gandhi first spoke of, is a change that's necessary for your sake, for each of our sakes, right? For the happiness that you seek, but also so that the world can really continue to be livable. So the dynamics of intervention, the dynamics of being involved, even in a country where I previously had zero expertise, experience, and context, the past 1.5 years has shown that it is possible to do something about that if you really care about it and have partnership at the levels of UNDP, the various development agencies, the international NGOs, and the local ones as well. So if you truly believe in something and you commit and you focus, you can indeed bring others along to help in that. And at the end of the day, this is not going to be, a quick, easy project, right? Because we're talking about not just adults going through job training, but children as well. So we really start seeing the full impact of this really 10 years, 12 years out. It's going to be a long-term commitment. But it's a project worth doing Because at the end of the day, these are lives, these are people who, you know, are going through this situation, not because of anything they have done wrong, just by dint of being, you know, born where they are and, you know, being the minorities that they are and so on. So those of us who are far more privileged, being in the US, Singapore, or other places, those of us who kind of have the privilege of being here tonight, think about how you want to share your blessings with others. And think about, you know, how you can truly live your life, truly soar, and find the wind beneath your wings as well, okay? So thank you very much for listening, and all the best.